This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
Well, that really got him riled up at, about 2:20 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, the President of the United States holding his latest or earliest press conference ever. And here we go, huh? Yes, here we go. One of the scenarios that was front and center, to be sure. So now we've got several key states hanging in the balance, states too close to call. And in key places, there are Democrats who are in charge of counting the votes, which, of course, leaves a lot of reasonable people quite concerned. Well, with the absolute lack of confidence we have in so many elected leaders and so many institutions, the Democrats so desperate to eke out a victory here for Lunch Bucket Joe and Kamala. And it goes to the old saying, which is attributed variously to Joseph Stalin and some others. It's not the votes that count, it's who counts the votes. And that appears to be what we're down to now with the president. Look, amazing stuff happened last night, and I don't want to, get off on it. I know we're going to play some President Trump from the middle of the night or early in the morning, depending on your perspective. And the statements he made at the White House last night or this morning, he came out swinging, as you might expect, because there is a fight on, and he's never been one to shy away from a fight. So he jumped right in with both feet. 2:30 this morning, and he's swinging, and he's put him on notice that he's not going to stand by. The lawyers are flying, I think, probably private jets, getting people from place to place to get him into position quickly, because you can expect crooked Democrats to be crooked Democrats. That kind of goes without saying, doesn't it? I mean, that's why we call them crooked Democrats. But the president is looking at it's still a victory here. Now, I saw Steve Moore, the economist and of the Trump White House and the Trump campaign, was on the television this morning on the Fox News channel, unlike at MSDNC, where they were just off the rails, and they're really upset. But it turns out, of course, that all the pollsters were wrong. Everything was wrong. They were wrong about the Senate. The Republicans are holding the Senate. That means no packing the Supreme Court. That means that Chuck Schumer is not the majority leader of the Senate. That Mitch McConnell won his race, even though they threw about $100 million at him to defeat him. All out-of-state money, or almost all out-of-state money, of course. Lindsey Graham, they threw more than $100 million at him to defeat him. Lindsey Graham won by double digits. The Democrats are in shock all over the place. They were supposed to sweep the Senate, take control of the Senate. Biden was going to win in a landslide. Jake Tapper early last night was just, I guess that, that whole thing about a Biden rout, about a Biden sweep, that was a pipe dream all along. And, when it turns out to be a lie, then they all pretend they knew it all along. It's like high school. It's amazing stuff. But big news out of everything last night, and we haven't settled the presidential contest yet, but it does appear apparent that the Republicans will hold the Senate, and that is gigantic no matter what happens, honestly. If Biden were to win the presidency in a theoretical sort of fashion, because he wouldn't be fully aware of it, and the Democrats with Chuck Schumer controlled the Senate, there goes the Supreme Court. They're going to pack the Supreme Court, looking at getting rid of the filibuster in the Senate to destroy the balance in the Senate and equity for the minority party in the United States. It's a beautiful system we have here. They have nothing but contempt for it. And then, Joe Biden in the White House, they were going to wreck everything. They're going to go after the Electoral College, which would unravel the Republic and would be the end of us. And the Senate, holding the Senate, is just gigantic. And the MSDNC this morning, very, very upset, because it just means gridlock. And they're still saying Biden's going to win. the presidency, but with Republicans in control of the Senate, and Mitch McConnell, who was supposed to lose, and Lindsey Graham, who was supposed to lose, and the Republicans were supposed to lose all the Senate, and all the pollsters and all the media people and all the wise men. They're supposed to be wise men. They're not. And we got a generation of losers that we pretend are wise men, and they're not. And that's why they constantly disappoint. It's 2016 all over again, basically, but the Democrats have added some wrinkles. And Steve Moore, I started to say on Fox News, he said they're feeling very good, the Trump campaign, about Pennsylvania, about Michigan, about North Carolina, about Georgia. He didn't mention Wisconsin, I noticed. He didn't mention Wisconsin. And Arizona is still, some say it's still in play. Others have called it for lunch bucket Joe Biden already. But the reality is the president has several avenues to 270 electoral votes to victory. Joe Biden also has several avenues to 270 electoral votes and to victory. And now it comes down to who's counting the votes and where, because this is where we are. This is the big thing. Now, with Steve Moore, Trump White House saying they feel very good about Pennsylvania, about Michigan, about North Carolina, about Georgia. Georgia, too close to call. They were pretending Florida was too close to call for hours last night after it was not too close to call. President Trump doing great with Hispanic voters, Latino voters, also doing better than expected with African-American voters, but maybe not as well as hoped with African-American voters. So we've got a lot of, a lot to look at in the aftermath. But for now, the key is counting the votes, and of course, President Trump winning. That's the key to everything. For Democrats, it's counting the votes until Joe Biden wins, and only counting them in Democrat strongholds like Philadelphia and so on, and not the rest of the state where it might not turn out as well. Same trick they pulled in 2000 in Florida when they only wanted to have recounts in strong Democrat counties where they knew they could gin up greater numbers. So, still too close to call, they're saying, is Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Some say North Carolina and Georgia, and some say Arizona's decided and others don't. But it is right now, apparently, and it depends on who you're looking at again, based on what states they've called, 224 electoral votes for Lunch Bucket Joe, and 213 for President Trump. Again, President Trump came out in the middle of the night or early in the morning and to the East Room of the White House, and he had several very pointed offerings for the country, for the world, for the Democrats, and he's putting them on notice. Make no mistake, when you got these Democrats, and we have these crooked Democrats, there's no doubt about it. In Pennsylvania, look, the Attorney General there is a guy named Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro, he's the chief law enforcement officer for the state of Pennsylvania, and there is good reason to believe that he's extremely partisan. He's a Democrat. He's elected as a Democrat. And the other day, I was actually reading a statement by Josh Shapiro, the Attorney General of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania may have been saying for weeks now it may all come down to Pennsylvania. And once the president wins Wisconsin, Michigan, here and there, Georgia, it may very well come down to what happens in Pennsylvania. What they've been telling us, it's going to take forever for us to count because we're but simple cave politicians and we're not good at counting. And apparently the election took them by surprise again. It so often does. But there's Josh Shapiro, Attorney General in Pennsylvania, the other day said that when all the votes are counted, Joe Biden will win. Now, how he knew that a week in advance, unless he's the Oracle of Philadelphia, unless he's Gene Dixon, I don't know how he knew that so many days ahead of the election, but apparently he did. And then yesterday, he was tweeting out that if you need help in voting, that you should contact, again, it's supposed to be a nonpartisan position, that you should, if you need help with your mail-in ballots, find out where to vote or something else. He says, call the Pennsylvania Democrat Voter Assistance Hotline. Someone will answer and help you out. And then he gives the phone number. So steering him to the Democrat Party, which shows that he's a partisan hack. The other day, maybe nearly a week ago, the Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, saying that when all the votes are counted in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden will have won. That's, this is not Bulgaria, pal, in the old days. This is still the United States of America. But that's the Democrat Party, and this is why we very often have little respect for and little confidence in the notion that these political hacks, career political hacks, are anything other than corrupt political hacks who will do whatever the party requires, whatever the party demands. We are at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625, and boy, oh boy, let me just tell you, here we are. I mean, we're hanging on tenterhooks. I think we're now at the mercy of Wisconsin, Democrat state largely, governor and so on. Michigan, Democrat governor with real axe to grind with the president. Democrat governor in Pennsylvania, and why is it that it's always Democrat states that can't count the votes? You notice that so many states are done counting and they've handed in their results, but a handful of states are apparently incapable of tallying votes on Election Day. Well, there are so many mail-in ballots because this year it's mail-in, and what with the Wuhan and everything. Yeah, we knew about the Wuhan and we knew about Election Day. And I was talking about this months ago. I think that you got to put a 3-day cap on counting votes after the after the election. And the Democrats, well, we might need weeks because we're, of course, not very smart, and we've never been we're very corrupt, but we're not very smart. And so they are planning on taking as long as they can until they get to the magic number, which is Biden wins. And everybody knows that. And so President Trump came out last night and this morning, and he was spun up about this because he feels that he was ahead in Georgia by a significant margin. The state should have been called. In Pennsylvania, there are a lot of outstanding votes in Pennsylvania. Isn't enough to swing the lead that the president has of hundreds of thousands of votes. That, of course, remains to be seen. But I really, we had yesterday, I was talking about it, a poll watcher, a Republican poll watcher, went and registered as a poll watcher, had his certificate as a poll watcher, then went to a poll to watch. And 2 Democrats chased him out in a very hostile way, said, no, you can't come in here. And he's showing him his certificate, but I'm a registered, certified City of Philadelphia poll watcher. And they're yelling at him, barking and getting in his face, getting a little aggressive, and chasing the poll watcher out of the poll like it's a third world country. And we're seeing more and more of that, of course. Speaking of which, in Washington, my best girl and I, we went down to the White House yesterday afternoon, and the surrounding environs, they're still boarding everything up, and because the Democrats in their Cat 5 election, their Category 5 election, and the violence that is anticipated. Now, it didn't come to fruition last night, although three pro-American people were stabbed by Black Lives Matter people in Washington, a couple blocks from the White House last night. I think at 14th Street and New York Avenue, really just a few blocks from the White House compound, and from the compound, probably a block, really. And 3 people were stabbed, a woman and 2 men, by a woman and 2 men on the Black Lives Matter thing. And they attacked them. The media has dismissed it, saying, well, they're Proud Boys, and apparently a proud girl. 1 proud boy and 1 proud girl. 2 proud boys, rather, and 1 proud girl were stabbed, and someone else was stabbed as well. The terrible, awful Proud Boys were coming to the assistance of another man that was being attacked when they were stabbed by the Black Lives Matter people. I won't call them protesters. I'll call them, attempted murderers, criminals, violent criminals, because that's, of course, what they are. And they stabbed several people last night, a block from the Treasury Department. And that's not really big news because the news media said, well, Proud Boys were stabbed at a proud girl. So a little bit of that, but we haven't called the race yet. You see, when the race is actually called for President Trump, in favor of President Trump, then the left is going to. But we went down to the White House. We walked around. We took a couple of pictures and some videos. We looked at all the funny people, men in dresses, and crazy people, mental cases. The Democrat Party